30 years after the Dingles arrived in Emmerdale, we've bid farewell to their patriarch, Zack.
We're celebrating the life of Zack Dingle.
Zack Dingle!
After an emotional week on screen, I caught up with the cast to share memories of the legendary Steve Halliwell, who sadly passed away off-screen in December 2023, as well as reminisce and celebrate the Dingle Dynasty.
I knew they were iconic, even just from watching Emmerdale.
It's a surname to be so proud of.
It's just a joy, it's ever-changing.
It's a family that just about anything under the sun can happen to, and it means there's never a dull moment.
The name is Dingle. Flaming heck! Well, some of us have got it, you know.
Talk about iconic.
I know.
Thanks. I was on the Dingle set earlier, and it's weird. I didn't even realise I was doing it, but he had a chair, and I was. Do you know that sort of like that cover that it has on that chair? I was touching that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and there was a Zack jacket on there as well, and it's just funny how you can have a go.
Thank you very much.
He'd love this, by the way.
Yeah,
Steve would love this.
I was lucky enough to interview Steve when Emmerdale celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2022, where he shared how he brought his character to life with his now iconic flat cap.
I found it in Burnley, where I was living at the time, in a second-hand shop, a black cap, which I've still, well, my daughter still has the original one, and an old corduroy cap, which was battered around. And I put that on and looked in the mirror in the dressing room, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do for the next few years. They're not going to get rid of me. This is a great character. You know, it just looked right.
Let's get on. Flaming heck! You haven't heard the last of this!
Steve's legacy is vast, really, on so many levels. Just as an actor, just raising the bar all the time, raising the bar on emotional and comic, especially comic stuff. Actually, he's a comic genius.
You all right, Zack?
What a woman.
I think he's from an old school of that rich kind of 40s, 50s British film actors, but now.
I just think there's nothing that he couldn't do, actually. He can make you laugh, he can make you cry, he can make you feel things. He always knew how to handle a storyline as an actor, and we all learnt a great deal from Steve.
He wanted to paint every moment that he was on screen, and that is an incredible thing for younger actors to see, because you think, if I can get him close to that, I'll have improved enormously.
They're not talking to him. What else could I do?
When I look at the Dingles, I think of storylines like Zack's depression. Was that hard for you to do?
It was, and I'm quite proud of that, because we won an award from the Mind organisation for best depiction in a serial drama. So that's one thing I'm extremely proud of, because I've had my own health problems mentally, you know, like many actors, a bit of a manic depressive, and so I understood. I sent a letter to the script department saying, this is the most stimulating part of my life here, is playing this storyline, because it's so, you know, it was so, every time I got the script, I thought, oh God, I can do this. You know, it was really excellently written. Yeah, that's what I remember about that, really.
Aaron's up the road wanting to do all sorts. On the strength of some mad loyalty to you, you've got to tell the truth.
Why don't you start me off?
I remember doing all those scenes with Steve, and he was really amazing. We did a two-hander episode where he kind of imparts the news to Kane that he was the one who kind of hit him over the head.
Nothing is ever straightforward with you, is it?
Well, you're the one who bars in here, but he's obviously having some kind of an episode, so come on.
You know damn well that it wasn't Jay. Because you know damn well it was me.
Steve was incredible in that episode, and yeah, I felt like I was working with an actor right at the top of his craft.
You can't tell me what to do. Tell him, Zack! Tell him! Tell him!
Tell him what? I'm your father!
You're my dad.
Throughout my entire career on Emmerdale, he looked after me, put an arm around me like a father figure, and guided me, and, you know, I have a lot to thank him for in terms of the way I am as an actor today.
I wonder when you're going to show your face.
We're both from Bury in Lancashire, and that was our initial meet. We had so many friends, like my actual family, knew his family. His wife was at school with my mum. So, of course, you know, two Lancashire people, one thing, we're going to keep talking. So we had that in common. And what we tried was, and I will always say this was what made us originally, and the growth of us as the family, which the audience hooked onto, was we would put our isms that weren't necessarily on the page, and we would put our noises in there. And the characters, he had his cap, I had the leopard print, you know, and I always carried on. So you weren't sort of just seen as the family, we were characters, and he installed that in us over and over again.
He was mischievous with his isms at times. You only had to be doing a scene with Steve and he'd just pull a certain expression and you'd be gone, you'd be like, Steve, I can't, I'm laughing, like, and he'd be like, what do you mean? I'm not doing anything. Or he'd always end a line with a, aye. And again, we were just all, he had us all on the floor laughing.
When I first joined, Steve was so welcoming and so humble and lovely and made me feel at ease. I remember getting really nervous one day on set as having to do multiple things. And Steve just smiled and said, oh, imagine if you had a rehearsal, Karen. Imagine if we had rehearsals, you know. And what actor needs a rehearsal? And he just kind of broke that feeling of anxiety for me. And I thought, oh, thank you. You didn't need to do that. But he made me feel comfortable, made me feel welcome. And he was like that.
Just give her a little cuddle myself first. Lisa, I'm going to be the best dad in the world.
He was quite a sensitive soul, very intelligent man, very well read, a great actor. He was a good friend and sort of a surrogate father as well. So yeah, it was, you know, it's tough to say goodbye.
What was it like to film the funeral scenes?
We'd had Steve's funeral in real life, sort of in January time of 2024, and it was always on the cards that the story team and ITV were going to pay homage to the characters passing at some point.
We'd all read the script prior to filming, obviously, and it was quite beautiful and a little bit strange just because of the nature of it, because we knew Steve had already passed away. But it was such a beautiful, beautiful tribute that we thought we've got to go out with a bang for Steve's sake, you know, we've got to do this right.
We wanted to do the best story we could, you know, and portray him how he deserves, that iconic character, but also for us, the leader of our family. And that's on and off screen. It's not just like what you all see at home as Zach Dingle. You know, he's Steve Halliwell to us. And all those years of memory, we had to do him justice and proud. And yeah, we lent on each other during the day, which was lovely.
I was worried because I thought, are we all going to get through this? And actually, we had so much laughter, and there were many times I thought, if Steve was here, he would love this.
Steve always had fun on set, would always have a little glint in his eye sometimes, you know, to kind of keep things alive and everybody having fun. So there was poignant times, there was focus, but in between takes there was a lot of laughs.
We're all pretty emotional at times, all in different waves of emotion. We'd be okay for a bit and then one of us would be, you know, moved by a line or something.
One by one, we all take the gravel and say our thing.
You always love the laugh and a drink. I miss you, Uncle Zach.
I wasn't acting then, literally. That was from my stomach, my heart, and I found that really, really difficult.
I'll never forget you. None of us will. It was emotional, but I think more so it was interesting for those of us who knew Steve over the years to just have little reminisce and memories of him, and we're trying to put little jokes in wherever we can get away with it as well, just to pay homage to Steve and what he was like. But I think it was a good celebration and a good rounding off of a character's nigh on 30 years in the show, as Steve had as Zach. So it was great for us to have that sort of on-screen farewell, as well as, you know, his ceremony for his passing in real life.
At the end of filming, James had a voice message from Steve on his phone, one of the last voice messages that Steve had ever left, and he played it and we were all sat round in here and it was beautiful. It was absolutely... I can't repeat the words Steve used on telly, but we were all there, tears in our eyes. He played this message and cast, crew, everybody, we were absolutely in hysterics, and I think that's exactly what Steve would have wanted.
Yeah. Steve's left behind a huge Zach and Steve shaped hole in the fabric of Emmerdale, and it'll never be the same.
He's brought so much to this show, hasn't he? A legacy of, I don't know, he's eternal, really. He's always here. You think of the Dingles and you think of Zach in his cap and being that patriarchal man that took everyone in and made sure we were all looked after in one way or another.
To me, it was a true friend, someone who, I knew for nearly 30 years, someone who I looked up to and was really honoured to be a friend of.
I miss him. I miss him. I miss Steve. I miss his energy. But we, as a family, will keep that going, you know, because we have to. He was the leader, and we're underneath him now, and we'll keep that going, I promise.
That's probably all I'll ever be remembered for, but I'm proud that I'm remembered for that, that I'll be remembered for a character that was well loved, you know, rather than somebody who nobody liked.
We've got big shoes to fill, but he's paved the way for the next generation of Dingles to, you know, do as Zach did and look after the family and as best they can.
The one thing Steve would want, and I can hear him now shouting down, saying the show must carry on. People will sit in his chair, you know, and have that memory, and long may that be the case, you know. But whenever we sit there, we'll always think of where it all began, and it began with him sat there.
Fancy that? Party and no one thought to invite us.
It was October 1994 when jobbing actor Steve Halliwell burst onto our screens as Zach Dingle to avenge the death of his son Ben. Originally cast for only 2 episodes, producers soon recognised the potential for a new family that would shake up the Dales.
I think Steve just brought something to the screen that the producers couldn't ignore.
If that's menu for Thursday, I'll have sausage and chips. And beer. Loads of it.
The producer at the time wanted this crazy sort of travelling community family, and he wanted this craziness, and that's what we were.
It's open season with the Dingles. You can throw anything at them. They can come into money, they can be involved in fights, scams, just about every conceivable thing you can write about.
What are you doing, Doylem? My mum's garden. Fertiliser's good for roses. Yeah, but these are plastic.
You say Dingle and everybody knows a Dingle of some kind.
As the one remaining cast member of the original Dingle family, James Hooton can still remember his first day on set.
January the 10th, 1995, and I arrived at the studio complex and I met Steve Halliwell and Paul Loughran. First thing in the morning. They were both mad as a box of frogs, but very welcoming. And we had one scene outside the Woolpack that morning, stealing a wishing well, and the Dingles bowl up, and let's get this on the van. So that was my first initiation into the clan and the first scene.
Happy Valentine's Day, love.
And there's a magic that's happened with the Dingles, hasn't it? What is it about this family?
I think the audience identifies with them. They're like the underclass family, and at first we were very much the outcast family. And, you know, going into the Woolpack, it was like the Dingles are here. I think we won a prize to go and get a meal in the Woolpack, and we all descend on the Woolpack, and Sandra Goff's and Ellie saying, "I'm having spaghetti," and we just, you know, and everyone's looking around. It's like, what? Who's let the Dingles in here?
The show was quite heightened then, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It was more like a sitcom.
There was a different tone to it entirely.
Yeah.
So you would have storylines like the pig poo-powered space rocket, training Butch to be an astronaut. You know, it was I remember there was a weeping Elvis that they tried to sell off as a sort of religious artefact.
You'll be sorry you pulled out on this one. We're going to be rich.
It was a different time.
Yeah, I remember them discovering oil on the Dingles land and them saying, what are we going to do with all this oil? And then I turned up going, my car's just broke down, I've run out of oil. And you're like, it wouldn't be accepted now, but it was such good fun, you know, it was massive, you know.
It's oil! We've struck oil! Yes!
I don't think there's one storyline that the Dingle family, you know, hasn't tackled, because they know that they can sort of move us throughout the family as well, or they can weave us anywhere in the village. And I think from a writer's point of view, that's gold dust, isn't it, for them?
I've been lucky enough to write for Emmerdale over the years and sat down with fellow writer Peter Kerry to chat about bringing the Dingles to life.
Well, it's tremendous fun. There's always drama, there's always comedy, there's always action, there's usually a bit of violence and a bit of drunkenness. There is a Dingle for every occasion, and quite often if there isn't, we'll just unwrap a fresh one and put them into the mix there. Yeah, they're great. It's a weird thing, this. They're sort of an aspirational family. What I mean is, when I first came to the show, I thought, why do people like these people? They're rude to each other, they fight all the time, they backstab, they're not very nice to each other. But then I realised, oh, they're a family. Actually, they're more than a family, they're a clan. And what they do is, yeah, they fight like other families, but there ain't no hill they wouldn't die on for each other.
What the hell do you want?
Right, Pollard, you're going to give Alisa her job back?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm not asking, I'm telling you.
They are, I have to say, brilliantly performed by one of the most talented casts in history. So I think that's the thing that you ought to write for those actors. Interpreting those characters is always a joy. You know, they'll always give you what you want. So yeah, it's great.
And they certainly gave the bosses what they wanted when in 2001 the Dingles helped Emmerdale win their first BAFTA for the death of Butch Dingle.
What is it about the Dingles? We can throw those stories at them and they just resonate with people.
The thing about the Dingles, because they've been so established as a comic family, this underclass that was, you know, nobody could feel inferior to the Dingles and viewers, so that we instantly had that on our side. It's kind of like the family of Robin Hoods, really.
Yeah.
You know, but because it had been so established as this comic thing, that once the darker and sadder stuff, like Butch's death, started to happen, I think it hit the audience that much harder because they weren't used to seeing us grieving and being and I think that difference, because you can go from that quite high comedy to the really gritty, realistic stuff. You've covered the whole spectrum of drama there, really, and that's why you can use the Dingles with so many storylines.
Because Dingles can carry the big stories. You know, you'll think of Paddy and the suicide, Marlon, you know, and the stroke, Chaz with the breast cancer. They go on, all these storylines are affecting millions of people at home, and they look at us as a family and go, they're just like our family. And we love that, and I think that's why we resonate with people at home, because they see us like them, you know. We're not upper class at all. We're very chips and egg, and we want to stay chips and egg forever and ever, and long may that last.
I don't want you making smutty comments about my Marilyn here. She's a very sensitive woman.
Who is?
Marilyn!
She's about as sensitive as a dead dog.
The Dingles are all very different, but what makes somebody uniquely a Dingle?
I think family loyalties, there's that fierce family loyalty. So there's that element of real, you don't mess with the Dingles. And I used to love that. I'd pick up a script and think, oh, here I am, I'm being ousted again.
Zach threw you out the family once, didn't he?
He did. He fully marched into the Tate household and said,
you are not a member of this family anymore.
And actually that really wounded me as an actor. I was like, I'm sure they've got this wrong. You know, Zach would never speak to Charity like that. I was taking it home with me. I was like, it won't be for long, it won't be for long. He'll soon forgive me. And of course, yeah, a few blocks later he did. But that was a big moment, yeah.
I will be presiding judge at these proceedings.
You get a lot of families in soaps that are rough, that are tough, that are a bit scary, but not with their kind of incredible moral code. And I think that's sort of the way of showing it best is through the things like the Dingle Core.
We have our rituals. You might find them funny, but I assure you, this is deadly serious.
The Dingles may have started as a family of 5 on screen, but as our love for the Dingles grew, so did their dynasty.
The Dingle family go on and on and on. We're like like a tub of sweets. There's so many of us. There's literally a flavour for everybody. We went to shoot Mandy and Paddy's honeymoon in Venice all those years ago, and there was a bar Dinglese. There was even family over there. So yeah, there's nowhere you can't find a Dingle.
Sometimes I think you might count up the cast members and go, hold on a minute, there's 45 casts and there's 20 of them Dingles, but yeah, I don't know, a lot.
I always used to find it fun in the writing room when we had to name a new Dingle as well.
Yeah.
Get your Bibles out.
Yeah.
Which kings haven't we done?
And then you'll go through all the biblical Solomon, blah, 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 and then suddenly you'll have these Dingles. There's a Zeus Dingle out there, and an Elvis Dingle, and a Marilyn Dingle.
Oh, hello. Who are you?
Elvis Dingle, and this here is my lovely wife, Marilyn.
In the Dingle party, there was that whole thing where there was this is baby Brando.
Brando, this is Marlon Brando.
Hiya. Is he the Godfather?
Is he the Godfather?
So you can get jokes in like that.
So Karen and Bradley, you are, in Dingle dynasty terms, newcomers.
Yes.
What was it like joining this iconic clan?
Well, fabulous and fun, as you can imagine. I mean, being in Emmerdale is wonderful anyway, but the icing on the cake is to be a Dingle in Emmerdale.
The Dingles are the heart of probably Emmerdale, I would argue. And I'll always remember my first day walking down them stairs, and Zach was in his chair, and Lydia and Sam and Mandy was here. And it was a sort of surreal moment, like, wow, I'm in Emmerdale, but I'm also in the iconic set of the Dingles, and it was just like a surreal moment for me.
Some people are born Dingles, some just become them. They sort of meld into the family. I mean, Dom, you came into the show in...
It's February '97. Yeah. Still a long time ago. I think Oasis had only been together 3 years by then. So, yeah.
And you were Paddy Kirk back then. You're Paddy Dingle now.
Paddy Dingle now, yeah.
But that was because you got together with so many women, basically, wasn't it?
3 Dingles or four Dingles?
Both had a few Dingle weddings. What they like to film?
I think you know what you're going to get. There will be a fight.
Yes.
There will be a delay. It will always happen, eventually, but it's hampered. A smooth Dingle wedding would be a weird Dingle wedding. And so, there's a kind of menu. There's a starters, a mains, and then the pudding and just drunken sort of like anarchy at the end.
And of course the aperitif in a welly.
Drinking from the welly does feel like a kind of like a moment.
And even though it's clean, or they say it's clean,
it's all relative.
it doesn't. You're still drinking out of a welly, and it doesn't. It's not the greatest thing. You're only doing it because it's written. You know, it's like...
Drink from the welly! Drink from the welly! Drink from the welly!
I always remember drinking from the welly. It's real beer. And nobody warned me about this, right? So you couldn't get it wrong the first take, otherwise you're drinking it about 3 or 4 times, and then you're absolutely drunk by the end of it. But yeah, that was definitely an experience.
From raucous weddings to dramatic family trials, there's never a dull moment with the Dingles, and the cast have a habit of living up to their family name.
And action!
We are a bit naughty on set. We get everything filmed, but we're renowned for our naughtiness. That's what keeps our energy alive when we're on set. You know, when you're doing long hours, you need that bonkers that we bring together. And you get me and James Hooton, well, you know.
Back in the day, we had a first AD, and he was like, OK, going for a take, rolling in 5, 4, 3. Right, who's put a fried egg in Mark's tea? And it was like this fried egg, apparently just bobbing up and down in this scene. It's Lisa Riley again. So she's the main culprit of all the things that go on, all the madness that goes on in here. She's behind most of it.
I know it's a cliche, probably everybody has said it. We are like a family, off screen as well.
We go out for Dingle meals together. If it's someone's birthday, if it's someone's anniversary, we will go out together. And yeah, that's what comes through the screen. You know, because if you get on off screen, you know, you certainly. It comes through, definitely. But we're so solid as a family, and we want to keep it working, that's the thing. And Steve started that.
The way Steve thought about the Dingles, the ethos of it, it was so infectious in the sense that you kind of couldn't help being drawn into that mode of we're going to make this work for us first, and then that will help the show. But it was about, we are a clan, we're a group, this is our responsibility, so we're going to look after each other. And so this fictional family became this off-camera family, and that's what made it. It was such a symbiotic thing for him, and it just worked.
We may have said a final goodbye to the head of the Dingle clan, but we said hello to daughter Tina, who made a dramatic return at Zach's funeral.
Don't know what you're staring at. Did you seriously think I won't come?
So what's next for the Dingles?
So much. There's a twist coming very, very soon. Yes, why is Tina really here? Has she got a motive?
She's got plans and she's got a very interesting secret, and I can say no more than that. But yeah, there's gonna be sparks.
She's definitely gonna come back with a bit of, I don't know, with a bit of vengeance or swagger or
don't know
attitude.
if that's the last we've seen of her, is it?
Yeah.
She's not somebody who seems like she's not going to give up.
She's got a gob on her.
She has. She's got a
Perfect
great
Dingle.
northern gob on her.
So another 30 years of Dingles, where do you think we'll be in 30 years' time?
Oh my goodness.
The kitchen will still be the same, hopefully. The couch will, but you know, this table will be the same.
Yeah, the crochet blankets.
You can't change them. This is the Dingles.
They might have made $1 million, they might have lost $1 million.
Yeah,
they could have.
in the same week.
Yeah, yeah.
There'll still be scams, there'll still be sort of family chaos, but we'll still be here, hopefully.
And we're still going to be loving them at home.
And I think 30 years' time, possibly Kane might be a great-grandfather or a great-great-grandfather. Hopefully still be in Emmerdale and making people smile.
I think it will always be, you'll have the patriarchal figurehead, and you'll have the new, naughty, naive Dingle who's causing all the trouble, and then you get the older ones teaching the younger ones to behave, you know. Don't get caught.
The next generation, that's what I love. When you see like Eden and Bradley, you know, Belle and Vinny, I'm like, yes, that's the next generation. You've got to keep this flag flying for all of us, because we're the geriatrics now, you know. We're like Steve when we were kids, so, you know, long may it carry on.
Emmerdale without the Dingles, what would it be?
Well, unimaginable to me, but I would say there'd be a lot less need for scenes at the police station.
Emmerdale without the Dingles is like fish without chips.
Emmerdale without the Dingles would be a lot quieter.
It would be less rich, I think, without all those great characters, I think. But I'm biased because I love that family.
They're part of the tapestry. They are the fabric of the Dales. You need a family like that who are troublesome but loving, and yeah, they're the real deal. They encompass everything, don't they? You couldn't have an Emmerdale without the Dingles.
Thank you.